Welcome back. We are working on this stocking today, and this will be a work along with me video. So hopefully I'll be posting one of these videos every week, and that way you'll be able to kind of keep right up or with us on all of this that we're doing. So this is called Gingerbread Santa. The kit is available at Amazon. There's a link in the description, and if you use the link, it gives me a little bit of support, so I appreciate that very much, but you can purchase it anywhere else you might find it. It's a fairly simple kit. It doesn't have too many pieces, and that's how I judge a kit on its simplicity, is how many pieces are there. And this particular kit has 95 pieces, so that's a little bit simpler kit. So in order to get started, you're also going to want to familiarize yourself with this chart, this color and symbol guide. It really tells you everything you need to know, as well as with this steps for instructions. And then there's also this large piece guide, which tells you where things go, and it gives you symbols to tell you what stitches to do and what colors to use. So where you find those informations, this is the stitch guide, and it's the symbol that's used. It tells you what stitch to do, and in this row it tells you how many strands of floss to use in order to do that stitch. Hey friends, I'm starting a new kit for a Bucilla felt stocking, and here it is. Here's the directions. It is called Gingerbread Santa, and it is a Bucilla stocking kit. And all I've done so far is I have sorted the floss that they sent into my floss sorter and the needles, and I have sorted the sequins and the beads into my organization for sequins and beads. And so I'm really ready to begin, except that I realized that the woman that I'm making this for, I encouraged her to keep the photograph, the beautiful color picture of it, in case I didn't get it done in time. We're working across shipping and things like that out of the country. And on this kit, it looks like they have printed the key to the stitches and the colors on the back side of that photo. So I'm going to have to ask her to send me a picture of it so that I have that to be sure that I'm making it all correctly. So the next thing we're going to do is just kind of check out the felt. Of course, there's a lot of red. Finny. No. Let's see. I don't know what the backing of this stocking, what color it's going to be. It looks like the front of the stocking is going to be this dark green. So that's the first. That's usually piece number 1. Let's see if it says that here anywhere. Oh, I guess this is the number 1 right there. It's kind of sideways. So that's going to be the first piece that we're going to cut out. And then the back of the stocking is going to be this nice heavy white felt. And then you've got all these cute little cookies and things that we're going to be making to put on there. So let's start. I'll have you, I know that I can safely cut out the front of the stocking. I know that's the very first step. I've got all the steps listed here. I just don't know the colors and things like that. So all the steps are on this side, and you check the box. So it says sequin the front of stocking. But the first thing you're going to do always is to cut out that piece that you're talking about. And if you're new, again, let me just show you cutting. Finny. Now I'm going to cut out or off of this piece the other green pieces that will be used later. I don't want to accidentally throw them away with my scrap. So those are going to go back over in my box. And now when you cut the felt, you can see it here. The lines are very nice. They're easy to see. But you're going to, I use this pair of small, very sharp embroidery scissors, and they have the large finger holes. With my arthritis, fingers are getting swollen. And you're going to cut just inside that line. Just inside. Very carefully, and do your best to do a really smooth cut, not to have anything that's kind of choppy. You'll get really good at cutting the more you do it. Like I said, I think there's 95 pieces on this stocking, so you will do a lot of cutting before you're done. And then after I finish cutting, I always like to look at my piece to see. Now I can see it here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of the white line that got left there. So as soon as I see it, I usually just try to take care of it, because if I don't, then sometimes I forget and I don't see it again until later, and it can be challenging to get to the spot to trim it as you layer more and more pieces on top. So keep going. Finny thinks that these felt scraps are toys. They're cat toys, Finny. These are cat toys. They're really expensive cat toys, and you love them. They're your favorite. Okay, so right inside that white line, so that you're not diminishing the size of the piece really at all. You want to be just really right on the inside edge. And of course, lighting is so important, at least for me when I'm working. Good sharp scissors. I've got, if you check out in my YouTube channel, I have something called Tool Talk, and I talk about lighting, I talk about scissors. I don't remember any other tools that are for felt work right now, but there may be others. So if you have questions on what kind of scissors do I use, there are links in the description to the kits, everything through Amazon, the scissors. I do most of my purchasing through Amazon just because it's simple. And I started working this on YouTube, videotaping, during COVID, so I chose not to go out to the stores where I normally would have been purchasing at places like Joann's or Michael's or someplace like that. Hobby Lobby is another good one. So I do run out and do things like that now, but I didn't then. So I've got a big list of things that you can get to set yourself up the way that I do. I have another video out there getting started with Bucilla felt kits. That's a good one too if you haven't done any felt work, to help you to get set up with what you need to make working these stockings a little bit easier. They are not complicated. That's not a good word. They are relatively straightforward and simple. They just have a lot of details. And based on whether you are someone who enjoys the small details or someone who does not, you can be someone who appreciates them greatly but really don't enjoy doing them. So that's okay. That's okay. There's check out if you want to purchase a made stocking. I have a website, servantcrafts.com. I also have an Etsy shop where I also have some finished stockings for sale. But there are many other crafters who make them, not just me. So check out Etsy. Just Google felt stockings or handmade Christmas stockings, and you'll find that there are many people making many different felt kit stockings and others that you can purchase that are finished, and it's okay. Your family will appreciate it as much if you go to the trouble to purchase one for them as if you went the time to make one. But if you enjoy the detail work, which I really do, the sequins and the beads are some of my favorite parts, but I know that for some people that is just all too tedious and just not enjoyable. So you want whatever you're doing for crafting to be something that is not causing you anxiety and to pull out your hair and gnash your teeth and things like that. You just want to be able to work on it and enjoy it. So there we go. There's piece number 1 all cut out. Here it is. And ready for all those other 95 pieces to be layered in on top. So we'll come back when we're ready to start that. So I've already started a little bit off camera, and the first piece that you every stocking I've ever done you do is cut out the front piece of the stocking, and that's usually piece number 1. And I'll show you some cutting techniques as we go along, but always cut on the inside. The first thing you do is when you've got a big piece like this with lots of pieces in it, the first thing you're going to do with your good sewing scissors, I like these small scissors for these kind of kits, is you're going to cut the piece away roughly from the large piece. So that's the first thing you're going to do, and always make sure you grab the number with it, because if you end up with a bunch of numbers hanging around here and the corresponding piece is not with it, it can be confusing, and I'm always looking for ways to keep myself from being confused, because I am easily confused. So make sure that when you rough cut a piece out, you always take its number with it, and then do the detail cut. And when you do the detail cut, you are going to cut just inside of that line so that you're taking away the black line or the white line, whatever color they've printed the felt with. And then I always look at my piece when I'm done like this and make sure that I haven't left a little bit anywhere. And this piece looks like it's okay. So this is actually only piece number 3. So piece number 1, the instructions were to cut out this piece, and I think in this kit it didn't even say to cut it out, but do cut it out. And then it says to apply the sequins, and these sequins you can see are really kind of scattered, and it's a great effect. I love that, but it can be a challenge to sew. So I thread my bead needle with a single strand of floss, and then you tie both ends together at the bottom so that you're actually working with a doubled strand of floss. And I just kind of picked areas. I thought, oh, I'll do this area, and so I started up here, and after I put on each sequin and bead, then I went to the back, because this is going to be a fairly long, that to me is too long of a stretch. But don't worry, I did 1 knot, so you go into just under the sequin and bead and loop your thread through and pull it tight before I go down to the next sequin. So there is a single knot on each one of these. Then when I got to the point where I was either finished that area or I ran out of thread, I'm going to, double knot it and then cut it off. Now, I would normally be concerned about these large lengths, but this stocking will be lined, so no one will be able to, none of these threads will be disturbed from the inside. But I always do that knot when I'm going to have a inch, about a thumb width stretch, because I don't know that sequin might not be pulled from the outside. So I did that, and so that's how those were all done. Then this is piece number 2. I simply cut it out, and then applique stitched it down. And some of you might think, well, why stitch the top when you're going to put this piece is going to go over top and it's going to stitch down? And that's true. I've always stitched my pieces all the way around, whether they're going to get another piece stitched on top or not, simply because when you stitch, for instance, when I stitch this piece down, I probably will not go all the way through to the back. So then I'm going to have this kind of looseness, and I don't want to have that on any pieces that are not stuffed or something like that. So I did stitch it all the way around, and you can see on the back here I try to use really tiny stitches. And whenever you're choosing the color of thread to stitch with for your applique, you always want to match the color of the thread of the felt that you're stitching on top of. So in other words, I did not use green, I used red, because the stitches will show here, up here on the red. You can see them if you look closely, but let me bring the camera down a little bit if I can, see if we need to focus. And you don't want to see green stitching along here, so that's how you decide. Now comes to this piece number 3, which on this stocking holds the name. And it happens that when I'm selling stockings, I obviously don't know the person's name before it's finished, but this is a request, so I already have the name. And I went through the whole process. I folded this piece in half and found the exact center. I counted my letters and centered them, and it was all perfect. And then I looked at this picture, and I noticed how this gingerbread man is going to sit right here. I can't see. There we go. Let's come back up where you can see better. So the gingerbread man is going to sit right here. And I thought, oh, this can't be a centered name. I need to save room for him to sit there. So that's when I slid all my letters down and lined them up, relined them up again, and that's where it ended up. So I've stitched the A down. I do stitch, first of all, let me tell you about these letters. I can put a link to Mary Stockings on my or on my description there for this video. But Mary Stockings is where you get these letters, and they come in white, red, and green, and they're $5. So to me, no big deal. And you get this sheet of felt letters that are pre-laser cut. Now you do have to kind of trim them out of there and clean up the edges. Sometimes the edges are a little rough, but boy, does this make it so much easier to get your lettering on your stockings. So I am a true believer, and I keep I have red and white letter packets right now, but next time I send for a packet, I'll probably get green as well. And I make multiple sets of stockings. I can use these. Usually I can use the letters from these for multiple stockings until I run out of a letter that I might need, so I don't need to reorder. So that's the secret to that. And yes, let me tell you, the $5 is really worth it. So that's that. So that's how I got these letters on here. Now, I stitched all the way around the outside of the letter. I did not stitch this inside because I choose to go over my letters on the top of the letters with sequins. It just makes the name really pop and stand out. And I started doing that because I used to put the letters, the names, on the stockings for my children with just sequins. You couldn't buy these letters way back when. So now I just go over the top center of the letter with sequins, and it really does make it look nice and get shiny. So I will finish stitching these around all these letters. So if you know the name of the person that's going to receive this stocking, now's the time to do it. It's so much easier when it's on a small piece like this that you can manipulate, as opposed to being on the stocking completely and finished, and maybe you've got the back on it. That's usually when I end up doing my names, but I've gotten used to it. It's no worries. So I'm just going to begin stitching. Oh, I better put my glasses on so I can see. And I just got some knots going on here. And again, for the applique. Yeah, sorry. All right, for applique, and especially for the name, you're going to use a single strand of floss. I knot a single end. Do not bring the ends together to knot them, just a single strand. And I have an extra knot there somehow. And if I haven't mentioned it yet, here is magic thread. This is just a little, it's hard to open, but when you get it, this is just really some uncolored wax or paraffin, and you just ride your thread through there like that. I do it each time I'm going to thread a needle. I make sure that that thread is conditioned. It really, really helps to keep your thread from knotting, and there's nothing that'll put you off a project more quickly, or at least me anyway, is having to deal with knotted threads all the time. So I just simply go around each letter with, really, Carla? Around is exactly what I did, all the way around. Goodness sakes alive. Well, it just goes to show everybody makes mistakes. Everybody. And I certainly am not the exception to that rule. So let's try it again. You learn how to fix your mistakes pretty quickly too. So you're going to just take these tiny stitches, and this white felt in this kit that I have happens to be extremely thick. So I'm not even necessarily going all the way through to the back of the felt. I'm just grabbing enough to get a good grip of it and to be able to secure the letter. And because I am going to put sequins on top of these letters, that's why I chose not to do the center of the A, but there may be some more spots where I choose not to go all the way around. And just get it down these letters. I do find that they kind of can move on you as you're stitching, so you may want to put more pins in than I have, but the pin pins also catch your thread. So pins are one of those good thing, bad things, you know. They're a necessary evil, I guess. That we have to deal with. But you can see this is slow and kind of tedious. But having it done when you get to the end of your stocking is much appreciated. Oops. And I see little imperfections in the way I've got the letters laid out here, but when I put the sequins on top, they really distract your eye from any imperfections. So, you know, just keep going, and the finished product as a whole at the end really kind of distracts you from any minute details. Of course, you're always going to see the details, but really no one else does. And there we go, that's a letter. And because I am too far to go across to start another letter, I'm going to go ahead and knot off. And I do a double knot always, just because I always have. Don't know that it's really necessary, but makes me feel better. And then trim very close to the edge. So off camera, I will go through and finish the rest of the letters, and then I will come back and show you how I do the sequins on top. This piece also gets more sequins. It gets green sequins up here, and then it gets white sequins down here. So this will be a piece where we'll sit here together for a while, but trust me, no worries, I promise to speed the video. All right, there is the name finished. So let me do some sequins. We're going to use red beads and red sequins. All right, and the first thing is to thread up a bead needle with a single strand of red floss. And before I thread the needle, I condition my floss. Okay. And I use a needle threader for these tiny eyes of these bead needles. Oops, I missed. Much easier to stick a piece of floss through that than it is through this eye of this needle. And when you are sewing sequins, you're going to pull all the way down so the two ends are together. And tie the two ends together. So you've only threaded one strand through the eye of the bead needle, which is really about all you can get in there, because the eyes of these needles are so small. Sorry. And then I pour a few beads out so I can use them. And I use approximately, I think approximately of 4 sequins up and down and 4 sequins going across. So that helps me because I don't have any dots, to follow here. So that's what I use. So I'm gonna just start about, and oops, it helps if you open the jar where the sequins are. And I get one on my finger, and I always apply the sequins so that they're cupped this way. That really makes them catch the light and shine. The first few stockings I did for my own children, I didn't know that, and I put them on backwards, and they still turned out nice. So no worries. It's kind of hard to ruin these stockings. Then you pick up a bead and you go back down through the center of the sequin and pull it tight. And that's how it looks with the sequins applied. So I'm going to continue to go around all these other letters, and then I will come back and do green sequins on the top row, and it says white sequins on the bottom. Now I'm a little confused. Okay, here it shows Santa's hat in the picture. It looks like there should be no interruption of the green sequins on the top, and I don't see any. So these are misstamps here and here. There should be dots, so I'll probably put 2 sequins in there and 2 sequins in there. This is correct because Santa's hat is going to come up right there. So just for you to know, sometimes these kits are not perfect, but they nearly are all the time. So I don't want to pull my thread that far across the back to the next letter, so I think I'm going to knot it off. And go to the next letter. And I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's completely finished with all the sequins. There we go. The name is finished. And so now I will proceed with green sequins across the top, white sequins across the bottom, filling in both of these spaces. If a piece does end up going over the top of those, no problem. Just let it kind of cover up. Then we'll attach that once all those sequins are applied to the top of the stocking, and that will be sewn down with white thread all the way around, and that will be piece 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, there is a lot that goes into piece 3. So some pieces take longer, have more details than others. So this particular piece does have a lot of detail in it. So it is going to take us a bit more time than some of the others. For instance, like number 2, that didn't take long. Number 1 took a while to cut because it was so large, but not too long to apply the sequins. So we're layering and building, and so far so good. This is coming along right as planned. So we'll catch you in the next video, where we will begin with I'll show you what piece 3 ended up looking like and being stitched down and finished, and then we'll start with piece number 4. So you have a great day.